Hey everybody, today we'll be talking about Aptera opening a new funding round on June the 11th, Aptera ending funding round just 8 days later on June the 19th, Sandy Munro confirms he is still an Aptera investor and talks about Aptera's early crash test results, Fox 5's Heather Lake stops by Aptera's San Diego headquarters to give us an up-close look at the all-new Soul, plus we take a look at Aptera in the news and Aptera on Twitter. On June the 11th, Aptera Chief Marketing Officer Sarah Hardwick announced on the company forum that Aptera had opened up a new round of funding. Aptera was looking to raise $50 million by selling 13,157,894 shares at a price of $3.80 per share. This announcement was right in line with the video I posted on the channel a few days earlier. It looks like that was a complete success, and just a few days later, about 8 days later, we started seeing on the Aptera forums as well as on social media that Aptera was looking to end the funding round on the 19th of June after raising a bit over $10 million. I'm not sure why Aptera is looking to end the funding round so soon, considering that $10 million only gets them into production. My guess is that they're looking to save the remaining shares for institutional investors, considering that they're going to need a lot more capital later on as the company ramps up. It might be a way to curry favor with the institutional investors because they're going to need to raise a lot of capital fairly soon. In my opinion, Aptera should just raise as much as they can from the public right now. With all this talk of inflation and you don't know what's going to happen 6 months from now. I mean, we hope that's not the case, but the market might turn and the larger institutional investors might be more risk averse and might not want to invest in a startup. I say a bird in a hand is worth two in the bush. So I think it would make more sense for them to raise as much capital as possible right now. And if at a later date they need to issue new shares, there's a possibility that there might be some dilution. But in my opinion, I would like it a lot more if Aptera just allowed the public to continue to invest in the company. So I think it would be wiser right now while, there's a lot of interest in Aptera to continue to raise funds, continue to raise as much of the total $50 million as possible. And later on, if you have to, perhaps issue more shares. I understand there's a risk of dilution in that case, but I think it might be a risk worth taking. A few days ago, Sandy Munro was a guest on E4 Electric, where he got to talk about Aptera and his investment in Aptera as well as the developments at Aptera. Unfortunately, Sandy couldn't talk about a lot of the details going on at Aptera since he's under an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, but he was able to talk a little bit about the early crash test results. Sandy talked about just how impressed he was with some of the early results from the testing. And this is before any modification has been made to the vehicle. I do expect these results to get even better, considering that Munro and Associate as well as Roush are working very closely with Aptera to develop a much safer platform. A few days ago, Fox 5's Heather Lake stopped by the Aptera headquarters in San Diego to take a close look at the all-new Soul. We got to take a very close look at the vehicle. What I found particularly interesting was how beautifully they were able to embed the solar cells into the vehicle itself. So if you take a close look at the video from Fox 5, you'll see that it's from a certain distance, it's almost impossible to see that there are solar panels in the vehicle until you get right up close to it, which tells me that Aptera is very focused on the fit and finish of the vehicle. I'm hoping that Aptera will invite more journalists and influencers into their headquarters to take a closer look at the vehicle. These third-party videos tend to give us a different perspective on the vehicle, and on the marketing side, it opens Aptera up to a completely different audience. So kudos to Aptera for making this decision, and I'm hoping to see a lot more videos such as this coming out very soon. Looking at Aptera in the news this week, there have been quite a few articles from Electric to Pharmacar to Auto Evolution, Rob Report, and many others highlighting some of the features of Aptera. If you want to read what they have to say about the Aptera, I will leave the links to these articles in the video description below. Taking a look at Aptera on Twitter, Iceberg asks Aptera,
"Ma è omologata per il mercato e gli standard europei?"
Which translates roughly to, but is it approved for European markets and standards? And the response from Aptera was, "We are working with an homologation specialist to ensure we are able to expand internationally as soon as possible. Thank you." Renaud F. asks, "Will you bring these to Australia?" Aptera says, That's the plan, Renat. Reservations are open to all, and we look forward to beginning our international expansion as soon as possible. A pretty interesting question came from Michael Brockway, who asked, when car shows are a thing again, will you be bringing a vehicle to show off? Aptera replies, it's a possibility. We will keep you updated about any events we attend on social media channels. One of the posts that Aptera made that I would like more clarification on was in response to Montrez Trezor. Montrez Trezor's comment was, so they raised $10 million this round so far? Where do you find this at? Thanks in advance. Aptera replied, we've surpassed our $10 million funding goal with investments from around the world while also raising private funding. So the way I interpret this is that Aptera has raised over $10 million from investors, and in addition to that, they've raised additional funds from private investments. So we don't know currently what the total amount raised is. I hope they will come out fairly soon and give us a little bit more detail on that. Another interesting tweet came from YN5, who made a pretty interesting suggestion: a solar panel sunshade to put in the windshield that plugs into the power system. To which Aptera replied, cool, thanks for sharing. We'll pass it on to the team. I'm not sure how much energy could be generated by a solar panel sunshade relative to the cost, but it seems like an interesting idea, something to take a look at. Maybe it is something that's viable. So hopefully we'll get some more information on that in the future if Aptera chooses to go down that road. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
You sell me every little lie is true.